So I guess we can begin. Everyone, allow me to welcome you to this series of discussions on environment, peace building, and transitional justice. Thank you for taking the time to join us and for your interest and engagement in this topic. My name is Munini Mutuku, a member of the Environmental Peacebuilding Association and also a member of the Bosch Alumni Network. Allow me to recognize the partnership that is hosting this series of discussions led by the Environmental Peacebuilding Association, and I will welcome Carl for some remarks. Carl, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Carl Brook, and I'm president of the Environmental Peacebuilding Association. And we are honored to be supporting Munini Mutuku and the team in this effort. This is part of a broader series of dialogues on the role of environment and natural resources in transitional justice efforts across Africa. And we've been looking at this for a little while, and unfortunately, there has been relatively little consistent or systematic approach to natural resources in the environment in transitional justice processes, even though people have been dispossessed of their land, have had to deal with their natural resources, health being impacted. None of this generally factors into the transitional justice processes, certainly not in a consistent way. So we think that this is a really important effort to try to consult with people to understand what are the issues, what are the opportunities, and to try to provide some thinking, not only for Africa, but for the world, on how to improve the role of environment and natural resources in transitional justice processes. So thank you very much for your attention today and for engaging. And I'd like to turn it back to Munini.
Thank you very much, Carl. Our topic for today is environment and peace building. And tomorrow, as Carl has mentioned, our topic will be environment, peace building, and transitional justice. These discussions are part of a larger framework or a larger initiative. And one of them is the Road to Geneva, which is an inclusive process that is providing a platform for diverse voices and diverse teams from the various regions. This will lead to the second international conference on environmental peace building that it will take place in Geneva in February 2022, and you're as much welcome. A link with more information will be shared in the chat section on the second international conference on environmental peace building. These discussions are also part of a larger initiative that seeks to understand, like Carl has mentioned, the practice of transitional justice as it relates to environmental peace building. The adoption of the African Union Transitional Justice Policy in 2019 is a milestone in providing guidelines to support the redress of crimes and human rights abuses within the continent. These abuses and crimes are especially related to violent conflicts witnessed in various countries where often natural resources are a key issues, as we have heard from Carl. So the question continues to linger on the place of environmental issues and natural resource issues in transitional justice in the discussion and in the practice. So today we begin by discussing environment and peace building. So then at this juncture, I would like to welcome our facilitator for the day, that is Yande Mohammed, to start us off. And as she takes the floor, allow me to remind you, kindly use the chat section as we continue with this discussion to ask any question that you may have. Remember, if you have a question for a specific panelist, kindly mention the name so that the question is directed to that panelist. Secondly, allow us, we will mute everyone so that we can minimize background noise. And lastly, the discussion is being recorded and a link will be shared, and you will also find that in the Environmental Peacebuilding Association website. So without much ado, allow me to appreciate also the partnership of the Bosch Alumni Network led by the coordinator, that is Sarah. Thank you so much to the Environmental Peacebuilding Association as well. Yande Mohammed, the floor is yours. You're welcome, and thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're calling in from. My name is Yande Sal Mohammed, and I will be helping to facilitate and moderate today. So for today, we have the webinar that's going to be creating an understanding and contextualizing the concept of environment and environmental peace building. Before I bring in the speakers, I'd like to just do a brief introduction on each of the speakers, and then we will begin the panel discussion. Like Munini said, please, we encourage you to absolutely use the chat box for any questions. If it's a general question, you can just simply write your question. And if it's going to be directed to any of the panelists, please write your question. And maybe if you'd like to put it in parentheses of who you'd like to direct your question to. So today, we are lucky enough to have 4 of our speakers here. And if I mispronounce your name, I apologize, and please definitely correct me. So we have Aremu Falunke John, who is a senior agricultural economist with over 10 years of experience in research in the developmental sector. He holds a master's degree in agricultural economics from Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, Nigeria, and professional certificates in public policy and political economics of institutions and development from the University of Virginia, US, and Leiden University, the Netherlands, respectively. So as a member of the Environmental Peacebuilding Association, he mentors young professionals and promotes environmental peace building through agriculture, policy, and advocacy. He has been involved in the development of national policy on food and nutrition in Nigeria, and for the Charter of Berlin for Heads of State and Development Countries in Germany, as well as the Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill in Nigeria and the Nigeria Rights Development Council Bill, among many others. And she is based in Abuja, Nigeria. Another one of our speakers that we have is David N.S. Ole-Mwenda, who is from the Paran Alliance Coordinator, So he is a community-based conservation expert with over 14 years working in community conservation in Kenya, and also in the Nyasa National Reserve in Mozambique. He has an MBA in finance, a BA in community development, and has been a fellow with the collective as well. He is a coordinator of the Alliance, which is a grassroots social movement to amplify grassroots voices. He's represented the Alliance in different platforms, the London Climate Action Week in July 2019, and UN Climate Summit in New York, representing grassroots and indigenous peoples. So David is currently carrying out research on supporting grassroots environmental peace building movements in North Kenya, which is perfect for our talk today, and understanding the impacts of COVID-19 in fragile and conflict affected regions, a case study in Northern Kenya. Our third speaker for today will be Ramsan Carmoshu, which is a research coordinator. So Ramsan is a research coordinator for EnPax, has hands-on role in implementing research activities, managing data, and reporting on research expenditures. Since 2014, Ramsan has been involved in implementing research projects funded by the British Academy, Global Challenges Research Fund, Department for International Development, and the United States Institute for Peace, USIP. Ramsan also has invaluable experience consulting pastoral communities prior to research, mobilizing research participants, managing research teams and data, and disseminating findings. So jointly with colleagues in Tanzania, they deliver a study on the impact of LAPSET, which is Lamu Port, Southern Sudan, Ethiopia, and SAPGOT, which is the Southern Agricultural Growth Corridor of Tanzania. And for our last speaker, one second, we have a Dr. Daniel Karanja. And so Dr. Karanja received his first doctorate in ministry in 1999 and his second doctorate in conflict analysis from Nova Southeastern University in 2015. His research interests include multicultural approaches to conflict, transformation, and restorative justice theories on inter-intergroup conflict, holistic post-conflict, reconstruction through mediation and trauma healing. As an interdisciplinary scholar, his research explores the intersection of religion, conflict, and peace. His work has appeared in the Pepperdine University School of Law Journal. He's also the author of several book chapters. So I'd like to say thank you so much to all of the panelists that are that are joining us for today. And thank you everyone that was able to join us and participate as well. So for the panelists, I have a few questions, but I'd also again like to welcome you to our discussion today. So let me just start the conversation off a little bit. So for Dr. Karanja, are you with us today?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Professor Karanja Njoroge. I don't think that there may be somebody else that you are calling.
Oh,
Daniel.
no.
Is there?
Oh, I was looking for you.
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. So
okay. I am on. My name is Professor Karanja Njoroge. I worked in Canada for a long time, taught at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, and then moved on to a smaller university in Ontario called Trent University, where I worked until I decided to come back home, come back to Kenya. And in Kenya, I have been involved with matters of development in various areas and regions within Kenya and Africa. Particularly issues of communication in development. And we were involved in broadening the space in radio transmissions across Eastern South Africa, establishing radio stations and encouraging people to privatize, to allow private radio stations to go on air for development purposes and for economic and peace and justice and democratization. Since then, I joined Greenbelt Movement, working at the Professor Wangari Maathai as Executive Director of the Greenbelt Movement. After her death in 2011, I stayed on for another year, but moved on to establish a small organization called Environmental Interactions Organization, which looks at the way the environment interacts with normal human activities, including issues of peace and development. And that is what I've been doing, although I do a lot of consultancy work around conflict management, particularly in areas of natural resource utilization and extractions. That's me. Now, I don't know whether you want us to start now or how you have introduced myself now.
Yes, thank you. It's great that you also could do your own little introduction to share with us a bit more about your work.
Yes.
I have a few questions, if you don't mind me asking. And if anybody also has any questions, please feel free to put any questions that you have, if that's okay. Yeah. So I heard that you are doing work, please correct me if I'm wrong, on how the environment interacts with normal human activities. Yes. So maybe you can speak a little bit and share a little bit with us about how that coincides with environment and peace building.
There is nothing more connected to human development than the presence of peace cultures in our communities. So this is something that Professor Wangari Maathai used to tell us a lot, that in order to protect our environment and conserve our natural resources in a manner or exploit them in a sustainable way, two things have to happen. We have to have governance that takes recognition of participation of the communities in everything they do. And three, we must embrace cultures of peace. It is almost as connected as a three-legged stool. If you sit on a three-legged stool, any one of the leg, if faulty, will make you fall, isn't it? And the three legs are, one, the cultures of peace that a community adopts and works with, governance system that recognizes the supremacy of community decisions, and three, natural resource management that is to the benefit of the other two, for peace and for the communities. And I think from that perspective, we've been able in Kenya to try to reduce conflicts that are associated with natural resources by, one, encouraging cultures of peace. And it's a complicated and difficult process when people are competing for the same resources in a given geographic area. Our country, and particularly in Africa, we have communities that are bound by their ethnicity, they are bound by their cultures, but we want to expand that by saying you can be bound by your culture, but the culture must be a culture of peace. You have a question or an issue with your neighbor, the best option you have as a culture of peace is to establish dialogue, and you work out your problems together. In the manner in which our resources have been extracted in Africa, they have traditionally been exploited for the benefit of a few and for the benefit of people outside the continent. And for that reason, we the African people must take cognizance of the fact that no development can happen in Africa without conserving those three legs of the stool. In other words, good governance, good, sustainable natural resource utilization, and cultures of peace.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
That is our motto, and that's how we operate in whatever we do.
Yeah, I would like if you could possibly speak a little bit more about what is a culture of peace, and also on the flip side, what isn't a culture of peace, you know? If you could speak a little bit more about it.
Yes, a culture of peace is the tenet on which a community advances its human interaction with other communities. It is a position that is taken by a community in terms of its relationship with the natural resources that it exploits, whether it's the soil as farmers or the land pastures that the livestock grazes on, that you approach it from the culture that whatever it is, your neighbor has a responsibility to preserve it, just like you have a responsibility to preserve it. Your neighbor has a responsibility to use it, just like you have a responsibility to use it. And that is what we call a culture of peace. You know, once we agree that everybody has a stake at the natural resources that God has endowed us with, then that tenet number one for culture of peace. Tenet number two is you must be willing to listen when there is a conflict. In other words, whenever your neighbor feels that they are offended or feel that they have been, their resources have been infringed upon, you must be willing to listen. What is not a culture of peace is when a complaint is made and you dismiss it. That's not a culture of peace. A culture of peace is a complaint has been made, you address it. And you address it by listening to the complainant and seeking a solution to his or her problem. The third tenet of a culture of peace is that no one ever picks a weapon before talking before engaging in talks, so that a culture of peace never is addressed by mobilizing weapons against your neighbor because they have offended you, but you mobilize tongues of people in a language they can understand so that you can talk with one another. That is what we have established as a culture of peace. In terms of good governance, in the case of Africa, we have had consistently over the last few years, few decades even, of governments that do not care about the welfare of their people. Although they are elected in most cases by the same people, they have no connection. They do not allow the communities to be connected to the power of government so that their agenda can take priority over other agendas. And good governance means a government that is elected by the people, works for the people, and develops people-driven agenda all the time. So that's the second leg of the stool, which is good governance. The third leg is that Africa is endowed with so much natural resources. And the history of the extraction of our natural resources in Africa has been strewn with pain and suffering of our Can you hear me? Hello?
Now we can. Now we can. We lost you for a bit.
Oh, sorry, our connectivity here may be a challenge.
It's okay. We lost you.
I was saying that the third leg is really an issue of democratic development of our institutions in Africa. And number one priority, it's an issue of natural resource management in Africa that must be made from that must be formatted at a democratic process of community involvement in any project that exploits our natural resources.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. I also saw from what you were talking about was establishing dialogue and sharing dialogue and communicating through a shared tongue. So what would you suggest in instances where you in fact don't have a shared tongue, or you have communities coming from completely different language groups, and this can be in some ways a source of conflict as well?
Yes, it's true that Africa has been speaking English for too long, and French and Portuguese, but Africa has other languages too, and these languages were spoken long before the Europeans came, and our people always communicated across cultures, even with those difficulties of localized languages. Where I grew up, our neighbors were the Maasai and the Kalenjin, and we had no time when we could not be able to communicate with them, regardless of the fact that we never spoke English. So there is a language of communication. There will always be people in your community who can communicate in the other language, and there will always be someone in the other community who can communicate in a language of this other community. So the idea here is to strengthen our ability to solve our own problems ourselves at the very local level, and upscale that to our leaders, elected leaders, to ensure that they never engage in anything other than conversations with ourselves to find solutions. And there is nothing that cannot be resolved by ourselves. We cannot resort to war at every turn of a confusion or a challenge or a poor understanding of some issue. We must resist. Africa must resist from engaging in war or atrocities against one another. That is something that we are working on in my small organization, and we try to bring peace even between groups of the same tribe who sometimes quarrel and have animosity. In the case of Kenya, in northern Kenya, for example, there was a project, a wind project in Turkana, which caused quite a stir when people said, no, they will not accept that project to go on because they didn't see the use of their land being used to do this big wind farm, which had no benefits to that community. And we worked with them, we increased their knowledge about why wind farm, why they have this resource given to them by God on Mount Kural, which they can share with the rest of Kenyans across. And in return, some benefits can accrue to them: better roads, better schools, better hospitals, and so on and so forth. It's an issue of conversation. We need to converse more with our people and talk less to them, but listen more to them. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for that. Listening is extremely important with both environment and peace building put together.
Yes.
I have another question for you. So what do you think is the status of environmental peace building in academic circles within the African region?
I think it's not taken root yet, but there are enough resources out there and people out there interested in this realm of investigation and research and way of doing things, that it is going to grow, and it's bound to grow. As I said earlier, our biggest problem in Africa is lack of a coherent process of resolving problems between ourselves. Not just within one nation, but intranational concerns. And it's more often in Africa to hear of border closures, to hear of cross-border skirmishes, and to talk about this country opposed to this other country. Internally, there are divisions, not just along tribal or national groupings, but also along religious groupings. The big, long conflict we've had with Al-Shabaab has nothing to do with languages and traditions. It's all about to encourage away from those religions that promote violence and do not, are unwilling to get to the same table with people who have different beliefs from themselves. And it's getting to see that as an option, but it is a long road to travel, and we don't expect things to happen in a hurry, but we are willing to continue seeking conflict management through dialogue and through instilling a sense of ownership of processes rather than what has been by accident, by visitors, that the only way to peace is court rulings and legal processes and so on and so forth. There are many traditional methods of resolving conflicts than seeking international intervention unless it's a full-blown war. Obviously, we are not saying that full-blown wars should not be interfered with by the international community. We are just saying internally in Africa, we have to develop capacity for people who go out there and support communities who are craving for peace, to understand peace and to understand the mechanism of handling conflicts with their neighbors.
Yes, capacity building is very, very crucial on the African continent, 100%. I would like to invite Mr. John Aremu to join us now. Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Would you like to just briefly explain the work that you do?
Okay, as I've been introduced, I'm Aremu John. I work as agribusiness development expert in Nigeria and some African countries like Ghana, Togo, Benin. We use agribusiness to build the livelihood of youth and women to be able to address peace, conflict and crisis, such that we are able to promote peaceful society. We involve in, apart from livelihood development, we also engage government in terms of policy. There are different aspects of environmental building that is lacking coherent and adequate policy. We tried to work with the smallholder farmers, people at the community level, to engage them, get their opinion, identify the challenges at grassroots, and then take it up to the government in terms of advocacy and advise the government appropriately on how to reach down to these people in such a way that it will not be, the policy will not be a top-bottom, but it can be bottom-up, such that it can actually meet the needs of the people in terms of, in the area of livelihood, in the area of environmental management, in the area of resource development, and distribution, and social inclusion. In Africa, using Nigeria as a case study, we discovered that many women are socially excluded in decision-making and in distribution of these resources. For example, in some parts of Africa, we know that it's difficult for women to own land as a right. It's difficult for them. And then in terms of access to finance and other inputs that make them to be able to be resilient against environmental degradation and climate change that we are currently witnessing. So we try to build the capacity of community and then the capacity of the government to reach out to these people. Let me make an example in the area of climate change in northern parts of Nigeria, which is close to the Sahara. We discovered that the impact of climate change is so extreme, whereby there is dryness, there is drought, and it's difficult for people to access it's difficult for people to access the resources in the area and make it to improve their life. So the young people over there are prone and easily used by the harm group to cause crisis in the country, and also to recruit them for some kind of deals, which is hampered to our environment and then the general country. So we have to engage these young people by building their capacity on how to make income through agriculture, by reorientating them, and also make them know that they have a future instead of being recruited by the armed group. So over the years, we have been able to reorientate some young people and women. We have been able to build their capacity to increase their income level. An amazing thing is that some of these young people that are being recruited by this armed group, as soon as their income level increase and they have good things of life for themselves and their immediate family, they are discouraged from engaging and being used by the armed group. So it encourages us to continue with this work. And also engaging the government, we discovered that sometimes government has the right intention to do things, but the way out of getting it done and reaching down to the grassroots is somehow difficult for them. So we have been able to reach out to these decision makers too, and make the voice of the young, the people at grassroots level to reach out to them. So that has bridged the gap. In the long run, it has reduced the number of youth and people being used for crisis. It has also helped to be able to address some environmental challenges, such as the environmental challenges that we have. I think I'll stop there. If I say I should continue, I work as development expert. I've worked for John Kufuor Foundation, the former president of Ghana foundation here in Nigeria. Then I've also supported GIZ project, whereby we mobilize farmers to be able to mass produce rice in the country. With this, we are able to empower more than 100,000 people to improve their livelihood. And with that, it was difficult for them to be used. It was difficult for the armed group to use them to cause crisis in the country. So, thank you. Let me stop from there. Then as we continue, we'll talk more. Thank you. Hello. Yade, are you there? Oh, I think our internet. Prof. Hello?
Sorry, I think we lost Yande.
Okay. Okay, so these are what we are doing to be able to address the issue of crisis. For example, in Nigeria, we are all aware of the emergence of the Boko Haram, which started more than 10 years ago. It started as a joke, and it's something that has expanded from Nigeria to other regions of West Africa, in the Sahel Africa now, and our findings actually show that majority of people that have been recruited into it is due to exclusion. Social exclusion is due to agitation in terms of being neglected by decision maker, being neglected by the resource distribution in the country. So it was easy for them to fetch out their anger on the country and anyone. So building their capacity and livelihood has helped to curb the mass recruitment of some of these people. And also in the area of environmental degradation that I earlier mentioned, desert encroachment is a very big issue. More than 19 states in Nigeria is having this experience, whereby farmers are not able to get sufficient rain and water to produce sufficient food. The ripple effect of this has led to scarcity of food. Then the livestock industry is being crumpled because of this lack of water, and it led to a national crisis, whereby the herders had to move from the northern part where there is no water down to the south where there is still rain, abundance of rain and grasses for their animal. Because of this migration in search of pasture, greener pasture for the livestock, the animals are entering into the farm where farmer, entrepreneur, agribusiness people have invested lots of money. Animal cannot differentiate what is what. They are hitting some of these farm products, and the owner of the farms and the herder, they usually have clashes. We've lost more than 200,000 people in Nigeria in the past 3 years because of this. How can we curb this? So these are some of the things that we are also working on to address. First, at national level, two, at local, at community level, whereby the herder, how can they cohabit with the farm owners? How can the farm owner adjust to these new people, seemingly strangers that just arriving to their environment? So with this, they are able to, we are able to curb the violent crisis that has been brooding in the country.
Thank you, Aremu. Thank you, Aremu. And thank you for raising the issue of violent conflicts. Yande is having a small issue. She will get back. The president of the African Development Bank, Akiwumi Adenisa, notes that there are at least high fives for Africa, and agriculture is part of this. Aremu, why is the environment and peace building important for agriculture?
Oh, yes. Agriculture is usually done by human. And anything that affects human, we affect agriculture, vice versa. Now, environmental and peace building is very germane to the survival of human beings, which means to the survival of agriculture. For example, if there is crisis, people will not be able to go to the farm because people cannot go to the farm to produce food for the nation. There will be food crisis. When there is food crisis, it's like a time bomb whereby when an hungry man is an hungry man, an hungry person can do anything just to survive. So environmental peace building is very important in ensuring food security in any country of the world, in ensuring sustainability of agriculture. Let's look at during the pandemic when there was a total lockdown. I'm using Nigeria as a case study. There was total lockdown. Many people could not go to the farm. Because of this, there was shortage of food. The food reserve was quickly consumed because government was taking care, supplying food, and the food reserve quickly was consumed, and there was no order. The new one that's supposed to come from the farm, could not come because nobody was able to go to the farm. Because of this environmental crisis, there was food shortage, the little food on ground, there was very high price, and apart from this, there was social violence because the little food produced were being rationed among the elites. Then the average people find out their hunger. Even particularly in Lagos, we experience what we call 1 million boys. Nobody knows those groups existed. They just gathered together and they were robbing from one house to another in broad daylight, attacking the police and others. This is a typical example of how important environmental peace building is in agriculture, because nobody can survive without food for a long time. And without agriculture, there will be no food. So for us to ensure food security, for us to ensure nutrition security, for us to ensure a reasonable, sane environment, community, a country, environmental peace building must be put in place to support any agricultural intervention in the country. And also, if you look at it from the other side, agriculture is also bedrock to environmental peace building. For instance, what we do here, as we discover that our people are easily lured by warlords, armed group leaders, and other sects because of poor livelihood, hunger, and other environmental crises such as climate change, flood, drought. We try to curb the potential violence by empowering these people with job creation activities in agriculture. And what we found out is that as soon as they are empowered, it was most of them then begin to value their life, that why will I join? Why will I waste myself? Why will I, become a bandit when I have family to take care of and I have source of income? So agriculture can be used to address, to promote environmental peace building, to prevent violent crises. And also during war, it has been discovered that many people die of hunger. Many people die of hunger more than the number of people that actually die by the war. So agriculture is also a bedrock in curbing the extent, the impact, negative impact of war can actually have if there is still food. I could remember during the civil war in Nigeria many years ago, it was food that they used to put an end to that war, because a group was able to block the food source of the other group. And when hunger strike the soldiers, the other group, armed people, they were forced to drop their guns, and peace was restored. Also, agriculture is also... Thank you.
Thank you, Remo. Thank you so much. You mentioned something that's very critical, climate change. And that brings us to the question of resilience and adaptation. David from Paran. David, are you with us? David?
I'm there.
Great. David, tell us, help us understand, how is resilience and adaptation in environmental and peace building? What does it mean, resilience and adaptation in environment and peace building?
Okay, let me bring out the context of Northern Kenya, where we would say what resilience means. Yeah, Northern Kenya is actually a dryland area under the Asals, and in terms of rainfall patterns, it's not predictable now, and we're having lots of movement and migration of people. In terms of what you understand about resilience in Northern Kenya is people try to contain themselves within that geographic space, whereby they become adaptive to the situations and innovatively look for avenues for them to address the challenges that are affecting them from their homegrown solutions. And that is what I could say in a resilience community. It doesn't require external support to come and dictate to them what they want to do. It is them innovatively looking at the situation and then say, this is an adaptive way of us to cope with these shocks or to cope with these challenges that we are having. So when it comes to environmental peace building, definitely natural resources, as much as has been spoken about, are the causes of conflict within the Horn of Africa. And recently, this has escalated in such a way that cross-border mobility has been hampered because of the issue of the socioeconomic status of people becoming low. You find the people in terms of in countries like Ethiopia, the Tigrinya and the Oromo fighting, they are running away to our country. And now the infiltration of small arms that are actually being used to create conflict. One of the ways I'm looking at environmental peace building, we have been having a case of the Ewasonyiro River, which supports 3.6 million people from upstream, where the source comes, all the way down to the Lorian Song. And within the same river, you expect that there are several communities that are utilizing that resource. And without the support or the environmental protection of the riparian zones and reduction in human activity, and as much as we can see the bigger flower farms now abstracting water, we are looking at people cultivating along the riparian, we are looking at the water, sand harvesting, we have runoffs, water retention is a problem. So the downstream communities have risen up and complained about these effects of human activities. And to that extent, as our institution, we were able to manage to bring 10 counties together to see how we can develop a master plan to look at the catchment area so that we can help the communities coexist, utilize the common resource, and also protect the ecosystem, because we are not only looking at the trees alone, we are looking at the fauna, flora, we are looking at the connectivity and nexus with the nature, we are looking at spirituality, we are looking at their sacred sites, we are looking at the species that are endemic in those areas, we are looking at what is good for this in terms of the downstream people who use the floodplains for farming. So we look at this issue of environment in a holistic way, other than an isolated economic or commoditization of the environment. So when it comes to the issue of peace building, we have the program on peace building, and we have used conservation as an avenue for peace building in terms of coming up with land use plans, development of bylaws, grazing management, rehabilitation of degraded areas, looking at carbon sequestration in terms of receding, so that we can absorb much of the carbon that is being emitted by the global north, and also to see how people will benefit from this, and looking at the adaptive ways for quality livestock production, where they will get the better cash, better services, and to integrate that with the indigenous knowledge. Because unless we look at the indigenous peoples and the indigenous knowledge and the local communities, I think they have been the protectors of nature, they have been the protectors of the environment. And unless we look at the ADR systems of whereby they are storing relationships instead of the legal processes that are too expensive, that create retaliation because of the feeling or the harm that maybe somebody says, you have jailed my brother, then there is a retaliation that happens. We see that ADR and alternative justice system has been very much working for the northern communities. And I, as a coordinator of an alliance of 28 CSOs, we have brought them together in terms of dialogues. We have been working with the administration. We have been getting information to preempt conflict, early warning signs. Members of the alliance have developed the apps that can also be used in terms of peace building. And we have also engaged women. We have women peace ambassadors. We have the young people, we call them environmental warriors, who are now trying to do some work on environment. We are looking at the policies that will support the protection of the catchments and the riparian areas in terms of sand harvesting. How do we plan that? We're supposed to harvest sand, and other policies that come in terms of adaptation and resilience within the county levels, where we have already supported the county of Laikipia, Isiolo, Samburu to develop the disaster risk management policies. And I would look at the environment, if destroyed, is a looming crisis, unlike the COVID one, that we came in solidarity to raise resources to address it, but we have always been shelving the issue of climate change. So I will
thank you.
I look at it as a solidarity for both the global north and global south work, because we are the people impacted by climate change, and as a contributor, we call for the global north to be responsible. Also, we are looking at extractives in terms of exploitation of resources in Kenya, gas and oil. There's a case that Prof mentioned of Lake Turkana wind power, which actually the people there have never gotten the services of any lighting because of the wind power, but they have lost 145,000 hectares of their land, false accusations. And all this will culminate in the destruction of the environment, because no compliance with the EIA is being done, no CI reports are being done, no public participation of the communities there. They have not been consulted. There is no FPIC process. You don't have, they do not abide with the Kenya National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights in terms of responsible businesses. So we are looking at those investments that are coming to appropriate the environment, but they are not compliant. And the level of corruption that we know, the agency that is supposed to give compliance is not even responsive by themselves.
Thank you, David. We are losing you there.
I've just summarized what we, because I just
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You've raised something about dialogue dialogue, and Professor had talked about language and communication. You bring in the question of commercialization and ecosystem protection, something that Professor also mentioned in terms of the protection of resources. You've said something about homegrown solutions, and I would like to bring Ramsan in here. Ramsan, are you with us? Ramsan? Ramsan Carmoshu?
Hello, hi, yes.
Great. Ramsan, an issue has been mentioned about homegrown solutions. And it's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, sorry. I was saying that an issue has been raised about homegrown solutions, and I wanted to ask, how do grassroots environmental peace building movements reduce environmental related violent conflict in fragile contexts like that which you work in?
Thank you for that question. I think I can explain due to the work that you have been doing in Northern Kenya and homegrown solutions. I don't know if I should introduce myself, whole group.
Yes, sure, please.
Yeah. My name is Ramsan Carmoshu. I work in EnPax as a research coordinator. And the project that is supported by USIP, and also worked in EnPax for quite a number of projects, looking at different issues, and most of it since 2016, current ongoing. It's still ongoing. There's also the resource-based conflicts in Northern Kenya, and we've also worked on different issues like development corridors research, decolonizing human-wildlife conflict. Those are some of the work that we have been involved on, as well as doing one that's supported by the IDS project that's supported by the Department for Development UK, just looking at how COVID-19 conflict and security in this case, sharing how grassroots movements reduce environmental, or how they work with the homegrown solution. Yeah, EnPax has been working in Northern Kenya for the last 20 years, or the last 19 years. And working with these communities, we've built a lot of experience in working with these communities. One of the things that I can say that we have realized that homegrown solutions really work better than when people come in, bring in dialogue and talk to the communities of matters, is a conflict that was between the Samburu and the Maasai community, Niger, whereby they were fighting over a natural resource, one of the conservancies, where one of the conservants taken care of their land, and they had very good natural resources like a grassland. And whereas in the other communities, there were no natural resources that were left, and they were coming to these other communities taking their natural resources by force. And this one raised a conflict between the two communities, where we have been involved in bringing these communities together for a dialogue, until they solved their own issues using their own mechanisms, and using the most using the traditional mechanism of solving conflicts, not really from any other outsider, but themselves agreeing and solving their own conflicts. This was the only thing that we played as external people, is bringing them to facilitate them to bring them together. So I think it was really a good example of when you bring people together, they will have those homegrown solutions. And then the other thing, we've also seen them deliberating on matters of sharing these natural resources without fighting, but agreeing on sharing the diminishing natural resources.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't want to take maybe a lot of time, but if there is more other question, I think they might overlap, and I can, I think I can elaborate more on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ramsan. Thank you. Professor Karanja, when you hear Ramsan and David and Aremu talking about homegrown solutions, and you talked about good governance, where is the interlinkage between good governance as we know it in terms of politics and policies and the homegrown solutions? Hello, Professor, are you with us?
While we wait
Hello,
for the
Professor.
professor, we have a comment in the chat from Mr. Mwenda saying homegrown solutions would comprise of natural-based solutions for environmental and ecosystem management and protection, bylaws that will promote user rights in terms of transhumanist mobility, influence governments to recognize community bylaws as a way to encourage alternative justice systems.
Thank you, Yande, for that. Thank you. Alternative dispute resolution systems, and Professor had talked about the use of judicial systems or the legal systems. Question is, Ramsan and David, tell us, help us understand how peace processes in relation to environmental peace building in your context. How have you handled disputes, or do you have case studies of disputes that you've handled using the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that relate to environmental peace building or natural resources? Ramsan, maybe you can go first.
Yes, thank you again for this question. I was expecting it because, yeah, I think our work, we're doing research, but we also have a lot of other programs in EnPax where we have a program that's purely dealing on peace. And our peace program is trying to, as much as possible, to enable dialogue. The communities in Northern Kenya have been having a long history of conflict, whereby they are fighting with one another, not because maybe they like or something, but I think this has been a tradition. There is a tradition in Northern Kenya whereby one community raids from another community. And this has escalated, it has changed, transformed to other things, not just a raid, but now almost like killing each other because of many other things. We have like the communication, we have the politics, we have the small arms. We also have, again, the Northern Kenya is like an excluded area or a marginalized area whereby since colonial times, Northern Kenya, like we have the closed districts. Those are like, they are not even registered lands. And in this case, the government officers that used to come to this area are not actually working to deliver government initiatives, but we have seen like it was like a punishing ground for the wrong for the government officers who are doing wrong things. So I think all these contribute to long conflict whereby communities fight for themselves. And in this case, when we look at this conflict that has transformed and transformed, whereby communities don't talk. When they come close to each other, it's just fighting. There is also the issue of land. There is the issue of boundaries. So these communities fight without talking. So EnPax is supporting these communities whenever there's a raid or something. It facilitates It facilitates a ground where these communities can meet and talk. So bringing the communities together, the fighting communities together with the government and any other stakeholder that's working in this environment. So we have seen this working as an alternative whereby indigenous people's knowledge has been used to bring the wrongdoers and to make sure that the cows that have been stolen from other communities are returned to the owner successfully. So we have seen this working, and instead of using the court, instead of using the police, so we have seen this working, and we believe it's really a good alternative other than using force, using the government, using the courts, because you might accuse the whole community. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ramsan. David, do you have something to share while we wait to receive a question from the participants? For our participants, remember to put your questions in the chat. David?
Yeah, the other thing is the revitalization of the traditional governance system, which has been undermined by the other administrative systems. And I recall knowing that there were the district peace committees before devolution, and these district committees use the old wazes who are so respectable in the communities and to come or be sent as emissaries to other communities and discuss an option of having a dialogue with the other community. And looking at that, I think the devolution has lost this important system of governance. There was Amani, who we used to call the men of peace. So if we could revitalize the system and with taking advantage of the new space that the legal system is giving us on ADR, and even sometimes sending like magistrates down to the communities, and without just using the legal system like that, but just for the magistrates to understand that also these systems work. I think that is what we are talking about, the homegrown solutions, because it is them who understand their conflict. It is them who understand, who have the information, who they can judge themselves who was on fault. And I think the option that is there is to restore relationship. Oftentimes we just find people saying, I don't want to work with you again because you did this to me. But restoring the relationship through alternative justice system, we have seen 2019, the Samburu, Turkana stole the cows of the Samburu. We actually used the alternative system where we brought the Wazes, and we met at around Archer's Post, and all of them exchanged the cows that they stole from each other. So without even any fighting or anything else. So we are seeing that in West Pokot, the Baringo side, the Samburu and Pokot have been having a fight over some land there, boundary issues in Amaya. And through the alternative system, dialogue, barazas with the Wazee, with the old men, that conflict over that boundary now is resolved because it has been turned into a conservation area. The Pokot young men have been employed there. The Samburu people have been employed there. So they can now patrol that area together. They can visit each other. And if you go to that area, you find the Samburus and Pokot interacting together. But what was mentioned by Ramsan is the issue of politicization of this and putting into the ring fencing of people in terms of boundaries. And for pastoralists to put them in a ring fence, a boundary aspect would actually hinder mobility, becoming a threat to them to have other options of livelihoods, and that would be going to buy guns and try to attack others, or for them now to use an expansion way of acquiring more land for them for grazing. So there are several ways that we look at that. And there was this, or the old men, the peace committees were very, very much important. And when they are engaged, there is nothing that they say they cannot resolve. And there will always be trust building from both sides. So I think that is also the other homegrown solution that needs to be documented very well. Another case was The case with the recent one we had in Garandare forest here, the communities went and ran down a tourism facility just because they were retaliating over their livestock that were taken by the foresters or the rangers. And instead of dialoguing, it was retaliation. They burned down the facility. Now, yesterday, they called for dialogue and tried to assess how they would approach this to solve and save the facility and that forest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that insight and those comments. Aremu says that engagement of community actors such as religious, traditional youth, women leaders in terms of dialogues to identify the root causes of conflicts, grievances, etc. will promote peace. Very, very well said. Professor, are you back? Is Professor back? Professor Karanja?
If you don't mind.
Yes, someone, yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think another way that we are approaching the matter is that there has been a closed, like Northern Kenya is not, is communally owned. Most of the land is communally owned. And we find that people did not know their boundaries. And EnPax now, like the organization is supporting the communities to register their land, to secure, to have the secure tenure of their land. This one will promote at least each and every community to have the right ownership of their land. And when this happens, now the communities, because it has a whole package, whereby when we support these communities to register their land and know the boundaries of their land, will also help them to do what we call resource mapping, where they have clear settlement and clear use of their land, like the grazing systems, where we have the wet season grazing system and the dry season grazing system. If this happens in everywhere, like all communities in Northern Kenya, I think this one will also help so much in solving this conflict solution. Because I think when you tell someone to rehabilitate their land, it is their land and they believe that they know that it's their land. We have found that during our studies in Northern Kenya, mostly that people move, not because of anything, but because they do not have resources in their land. The resources are diminishing. So they move to where there are other resources. So, and where they move, they do not even know boundaries. We found also there are a lot of border conflicts where communities do not understand who this land belongs to. So EnPax is supporting these communities to register their land, and it's a process that's also recognized by the government. So it's just an act that has been passed in 2016, the Community Land Act 2016, which now has, which now EnPax has taken it forward to create awareness for these communities, because most of these communities do not actually know. Last week is actually when we're starting to influence the leaders from Marsabit County, the importance of securing the land for the community. As I said earlier, the Northern Kenya it has been it has been placed in closed district, and the land was a trust land. A trust land is whereby the counties, or okay, now it's the county government, but there earlier it was the county councils holds the land in trust of the community. So the communities were really vulnerable as well when it comes to the mega projects that are being brought by the investors, the investors and the government as well, because they take their land, not when the community decide to give it away, but because the land can be given out by the county government. So I think this is a process where we also find it like communities will be able so much to control their natural resources. And we have also seen like earlier where there are grass banks, even if it's private lands, you find all the communities going there and vandalize things like the lodges, fighting for the natural resources. But we believe when we have secured the land and the communities are empowered to protect on the natural resources that they know that they belong to, they belong in their land, so they will help in solving a lot of matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramsan. Engaging communities. Ramsan, you talk about communities. David, you've talked about communities, and so has Aremu. Question is, yes, it is a priority for the communities, but when it comes to environmental peace building, is it also a priority for the governance systems? Is it a priority for the government? Is it a priority for the African institutions? Because communities cannot work alone. Do you feel that this is a priority? David, you can go first.
Yeah, based on Agenda 2063 of the African Union, I think the engagement of governments in terms of saying that there is a peaceful Africa and secure Africa, and looking at also the SDG number 16 on peace partnerships, and looking at the SDG number 12 on responsible production and consumption, and SDG number 14 and number 15, you know, it is live on land, live on water. You see, all these things are touching the pertinent things that we are discussing now. And most often than not, the governments or the governance of these resources rests only on the hands of governments. And if the governments themselves need to make sure that we achieve the Agenda 2063, resources must be put in, capacity of the people, policies that are friendly to people and environment are in place. Issues of corruption must be addressed because we are getting foreign support. We are talking of all these things in terms of environment. How do we address this? Because all the underlying factors that are affecting us are just because of the dubious and corrupt ways that we have. If the governments become responsible, then I think we will have a lot of issues of conflict happening. And I think the regional body also should come in. I know of the East African community trying to come up with a legislation that will allow pastoralist mobility, especially from Kenya to Tanzania, in terms of shared resources, in terms of looking at the partnership, in terms of looking at how they can thrive in terms of socioeconomic development. Our president also signed one with Museveni to allow the Karamoja to come and to allow the Turkana to go to northern Uganda in search of resources like pasture and water. See, so it is the engagement of governments, and oftentimes, I think the people who are put in place sometimes also lack the capacity. For example, if we say the Community Land Act, recently is just when they have started and they had put schedules. So it is also government to engage other regional bodies and look at what is happening now globally, and Africa, to make sure that all those nuances are eliminated in such a way that we are in partnership with the other institutions that are far much ahead in terms of research and documentation. All we are talking about these impacts, reducing of the temperature to 1.5 degrees centigrade, what are our national commitments towards this? Because then if we don't do that, then I think with the African governments will always suffer, get the impacts of climate change, and we will be still fighting. One of the things we know is Africa is known for securing its own borders and only using guns and not using the knowledge, not using the opportunities of the human capital that they have to change all these systems that we find are disadvantaging us or undermining us. So I think this is the way to go. Governments have responsibility and they're budget holders towards this.
Thank you very so much, Ramsan.
Governments have responsibilities. Very, very well said. Ramsan?
Yeah, thank you so much again for giving me this chance. I would say the government is really very important in the whole process. And we're talking of the communities, and sometimes the communities say we are the government because they are the ones who maybe elect their leaders on meeting. But what we see is mostly a top-down approach, whereby we have a lot of policies that are being made for the communities. The communities are not involved. One good example is where that I can mention is the Community Land Act number 27 of 2015. It's really a good act passed by the government. Of course, maybe with a lot of involvement with we do not know. I'm a pastoralist myself, but you look at it, it really had a lot of gaps. So I think, but I think I really like that act because it even went down, including the natural resources, the management and such. It's really good. Still a lot of gaps whereby when you go down to the community, still questionable. Why is it like that? And why are communities not involved during the formulation of such? In the whole process, the communities are not in isolation and they cannot be, but I think the government is really very important in the whole process, even in terms of peace, in terms of sharing of natural resources, the government is really very key. I would also point out maybe one of the things that has really captured my mind for a few months now. It's an issue about boundaries. There is no any community member that's a surveyor. It's only the government that has surveyors. And the communities really fight because of these boundaries and do not know where their resources end. The government is really very key as well here to come in and show the communities their clear boundaries so that every community will stay knowing where their boundary goes, where their land tends to, because it's not even clear unless in places where they really know where is this boundary. It's not clear where the administrative boundary is, leave alone their own communal boundary. Including as well the national parks at some point that are not fenced. Unless there is a fence, it's not clear. So I think the government is also very key to show these communities where their boundaries is. It's not also even clear to us who have gone to school. We were trying to see the GIS mapping and placing the natural resources, boundaries, and trying to place a map of Kenya and trying now to place the district. You find some districts go beyond our country, so you wonder who is this having this right map and not. It is key in the whole process.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ramsan. Thank you for those comments. Aremu.
Yeah, thank you so much. The issue of government engagement is very, very important. One thing I've discovered is that without dialogue, advocacy and dialogue, most times government feels relaxed in standing up to their responsibilities. For instance, here in Nigeria, the Niger Delta is a typical example whereby the oil boom that the country experienced some years back and revolutionized the economy of the country was neglected. The Niger Delta, where the oil was being gotten from, was neglected, and different oil industry were, taking the oil and it spoiled the environment. When this was done, it was later found out that the ecosystem was battered. The riverine area, the water bodies, the aquatic, everything gone. And most of the farmland could not be used for farming again, to the extent that if you dig the ground, you will be feeling the oil. So these people lost their job, they lost their livelihood, and it led to a mini civil war whereby the youth became agitated and they were vandalizing the properties of the oil industries, the bunkering, and caused a lot of chaos. When the advocacy for this got to the apex, the government has to stand up and look inward that without this region, most of the economy of the country may collapse because agriculture was neglected as soon as there was oil boom. How would they resolve this? Then they have dialogue with the youth and the leaders of the region, and a consensus was made. And now we have the Niger Delta Commission, whereby all the young people that were harmed and became warlord, they were first of all, the country started to work on how to clean up the environment that has been damaged. 2, how to restore livelihood back to the people, alternate source of livelihood since agriculture is gone, the water body for fishing is gone. Then 3, the youth that has been exposed to war, I mean, really harmed young men and women that has been exposed, how will they rehabilitate them? So they have to rehabilitate them and then empower them in different source of livelihood. So that shows to me that our government in any part of Africa, when it comes to handling issues, there is a need for advocacy and dialogue. Advocacy is different from protest to undo it. Many people do protest instead of advocacy and dialogue. Advocacy is to create the awareness of the decision makers to know this is wrong, this is what needs to be done, and this is how to do it. If you do it this way, this is what will happen. And then dialogue between the government and then the community, the private sector. Let's look at it. How should we go about it for a win-win approach? So this is very important. If we are taking something home, if we can take this home and see how to build the capacity of groups, community leaders on advocacy and dialogue, negotiation with the government, it will go a long way to address some issues. And also in countries where we have policies, many policies are just on paper, they are on the table, they are not being implemented. It is also advocacy and dialogue that will hold the decision maker responsible that yes, you've said this, we agree on this, this is what's supposed to be done, and you and your people, you agree on this. Why are we not doing it? What is hindering you from doing it? Then from there, we'll be able to address it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The issue of dialogue, we've seen quite a number of issues coming up, starting with Professor talking about the 3-legged stool: good governance, sustainability of natural resources, the culture of peace. We've had the question of indigenous peoples coming in. We've seen the question of homegrown solutions that have been extensively discussed, disputes and conflict and how to address that using active dispute resolution mechanisms. We've had about language, communication and dialogue, governance and communities. So the last question that is going to our panelists while we wait for our participants to set another question is, so what is the future of environmental peace building from the perspective of our panelists? What is the future of environmental peace building? When we talk of environmental peace building, we're talking about protection of and cooperation as a factor in creating more peaceful relations. What future do you see, or what priority do you see for environmental peace building? Aremu, what priority do you see, or what future do you see? Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Please, I lost a bit. Can you recap, please?
It's okay. Oh, I repeat.
Okay, thank you.
I was saying, I was asking, so what future or what priority do you see for environmental peace building when we talk about environmental protection and cooperation as a factor in creating more peaceful relations? So what future do you see now?
Yeah, environmental peace building has a very prospective future. especially also in Africa, where it seems the most people are yet to be aware of it or to actually put it in a proper context. So with the recent happenings, the pandemic, the environmental degradation, environmental peace building as a field, as a profession, or as a good prospect in Africa in the future, if we can continue to build more capacities. I mean, capacities of young professionals, taking it down to institutions that will pass it on for generational pass on, whereby, okay, we are here, we are informed about environment, we know what's happening, how can we pass it on to other coming generations, how can we make it known to the government, decision makers, that, okay, environmental peace building, this is what it means. It will amaze you to know that many people, maybe in West Africa that I'm used to, many people, they are yet to really have a clue of what environmental peace building is about. So we need to intensify awareness creation. We need to take it to institutions, let them know. They know peace building, yes, but when it's come to intersection of environment and peace building, there is less information on it. We need to work around this. If it means for us to have a mini project to take it around in the African bloc, it means for us to have a kind of campaign. If it means for us to have a kind of continued engagement, even with AU and other bodies, to make environmental peace building more known and build the capacity of more professionals in it, it will go a long way. When I say professional, the academics as well as the practitioners. Many people are actually doing many things, but it just needs to be put together in a context that will make it stand and be sustainable. That, okay, environmental peace building has taken a good ground in Africa, it has taken a good ground in Southeast Asia, and so on like that. So we are on the right course. We just need to increase the tempo and engage more diversity of people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All-rounded capacity building, talking about academics and communities and even the governance systems. We need to build more capacity so that the issues of environmental peace building can get the momentum. David, what do you say? What do you think are the priorities, or what is the future of environmental peace building then?
Yeah, based on the two key points of protection and cooperation and the future of environmental peace building, I'll look at the critical ecosystems that really hold much of what we say is environmental friendly. And especially when it comes to compliance with policies of extractives, what are the net effects and what are the cost-benefit analysis? Are government really compliant, or are they just having agreements for infrastructural developments at the detriment of the people and environment, thereby affecting the future generations? So the thing is, we should look at the future generation and not as who are appropriating any natural resources. The other one is about the safeguards. What are the safeguards that you have put in place? Because I didn't hear anyone talk about the safeguards when it comes to the environmental protection and the cooperation. Are these safeguards generally respected by either regionally or by governments or by other states? Then coming to our country, we are having so many laws on environment, either on land, forestry, NEMA, water, all these things. They are almost like 18. And they're all dealing with natural resources and dealing with them in terms of conflict of roles. So how do we harmonize places? I'm coming to a regional issue whereby we are talking of the Mau forest. The Mau forest was actually destroyed and affecting the neighboring country of Tanzania in terms of the water and the migration of wildlife there, where Tanzania was taking Kenya to court because of the issue of destruction. We say that all these common resources that are enabling the states to work together. Like even now, the building of the bigger dam in Ethiopia, looking at that dam in Ethiopia that is now causing problems for the Egyptians, or for the Nile people. And even for us, because Lake Turkana is now increasing. And other issues on climate change. And I would see, like, when we develop champions as the environmental peace builders, I think we will see the future of this continent of ours. Instead of now fighting, we're talking about how do we protect, how do we collaborate, because there are ripple effects when we destroy this resource. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Issues, these cross-border resources that we need to share, policies that are so many that needs to be harmonized, and safeguards you've talked about. Thank you so much for those points. Ramsan, what do you see as the future or the priority of environmental peace building?
Yeah, thank you again for this, for giving me the opportunity. I think when I look at it, I am hopeful. But at the same time, I always ask myself questions, and that leads me to be a bit desperate. I think why I'm hopeful is in northern Kenya, we are really having, or in these areas where there is a lot of rangelands and things like that, we are having a lot of researchers that are researchers and research projects that are going on in these areas. And I believe out of these researches, we will really have a lot of knowledge to make sure that we incorporate the indigenous people's knowledge that has been used to the to the environmental protection within the communities that are living in these lands for years, together with the scientific knowledge, and make sure that these two work together. And I think in our case as well, we are trying to look at how environmental change and climate change has affected the unity, like the security and the conflict in northern Kenya. And I think this is also really good that we are gathering a lot of knowledge in terms of very useful activities that the communities have been doing in restoration of rangeland. Brought together and to equip the policies, they will take us a very long This is also good because we are seeing now that everyone is trying to recognize communities in the communities and are building their capacities to protect the land. Where I am worried sometimes is where maybe we're talking about conservation. And when we talk about conservation, we are not really talking about communities being the conservationists, but we bring to work within these communities, which is really a threat to me. And there are also so many other things that when you look at, you either get worried of the future. One of the things that the policies are being passed, like for example, the Community Land Act policy. Look at the aspect of accusations by the government when they come to do the mega projects and that things like that. The community land is going, and it's going to powerful bodies, to the government. And I think this is a threat that times, maybe in future, I have seen some communities have also seen the threat. And instead of holding this land as a community, they decide to go the subdivision way, which I think is the worst thing that can happen to what we talk about conservation. When the land goes into fragmentation, and I think there will be nothing that we would be talking about conservation, because anyone has the mandate to do anything to their land. So I think if the community still, if the communities are assisted to through building their capacity to stay together, holding their land in communal land, and protect the land not for conservation of wildlife and the wild alone, but to benefit from the land in taking good care of the land, which will support both the livestock, for example, and the wildlife to thrive together as they have been thriving for years. I think that will help our environment to stay for a long time when it's protected. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rams. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is. I was also just trying to say about a question about conservation and the current conservation measures that are being done in Northern Kenya. If so, I can leave the question for another time, or my answer for another time.
Thank you. David earlier had mentioned that conservation is also our environmental peace building strategy. It's also a peace building strategy that has been used within the communities, where communities are able to conserve together, share together, and actually work on the restoration of resources together. And that gives them an opportunity to cooperate together and build peace amongst themselves. Yande, is Yande back? Maybe we can get a question or some comments from the chat. Is Yande there? Hello? If Yande is not back, allow me to thank our panelists. Thank you so much for those comments and the sentiments and the sharing we've had today, that communities can actually address their disputes related to natural resources, environmental issues using their alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. We've heard about conservation. We have heard that there is hope and there is a future for environmental peace building. Thank you so much for bringing in also the question of climate change. And we appreciate the fact that you have brought in a lot of concepts that relate to the field and that continue to enrich the discussion when we talk about environmental peace building. And that is the protection and cooperation as a factor in creating more peaceful relations. Without much ado, since we have no questions, I want once again to, yes, please. Yes.
There's someone who had asked me a question. Munini Mutuku.
Oh, Professor, you're back.
Oh, I tried to interrupt, but I didn't get you. So, yeah. Human interactions do have a very positive, if properly handled, do have a positive impact on the way the human being develops generally. We are all products of human interaction. Now, how was environmental abuse and crime handled in the African society, and where have we lost it? In the first instance, it was taboo, negative energy if you destroyed an environmental resource, a tree, a notable sanctuary of some sort, like a river, a waterfall, a spring of water. If you contaminated or degraded it, it was considered an omen that nobody would come to that place until it was cleansed. And for that reason, you were reprimanded accordingly. You might have to incur the cost of the cleansing of that place and so on and so forth. There are traditional modalities of dealing with abuse of environmental resources by the communities. And for that reason, everybody obeyed the law, just like we have people who follow customs. You don't go spitting on the street, or you don't, things that people don't expect you to do. Now, in our case, there were reprimands if you did it. In other societies, maybe there are no reprimands. Where did this get lost? It got lost by adoption of a modern way of life, meaning moving towards Christianity or Islam, negating things traditional because they were seen to be backward, craving for things modern because they were seen to be forward-looking and technologically superior. But now people are beginning to wonder whether we made a mistake. And we are going back to those traditions and saying, God forbid, we may have disobeyed you, but we are coming back to protect what is our own. And you will see a lot of people in Kenya, particularly in northern Kenya, in Maasai country and others. They are not against modernization, but they want modernization to conform to their traditional beliefs in the protection of their pastoral landscapes. If you come among the Kikuyu in the mountain areas, yes, they want development, but they don't want interference with their shrines and sources of water that is their livelihoods, and so on and so forth. So if you go to the coast people will protect very much the kayas that are the home of their cultural beings. And that is where they go for consultations and wise counsel and so on. Those shrines, those forests that are called kayas are very important to them. So why did we lose it? I think it's because of modernity, but a time has come, just like it's happening all over the world. There's a cultural shift and people are looking to their traditions for renewal and revival of what used to work then that kept their health upbeat and kept their environment properly cared for. Thank you. And I thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you very much, Professor. You have brought us to a perfect finish. The question of traditional modalities that were used to administer justice when there is abuse on the environment. And those are the questions we are asking. The African Union Transitional Justice Policy, which is a milestone in providing guidelines to support the redress of crimes and human rights abuses within the continent. But the question is, where is the environmental issue and natural resource issue in this transitional justice discussion and in this transitional justice practice that we as an African continent, we are adapting? And we welcome you again for our discussion tomorrow, same time. And we will be adding the component of transitional justice, environment, peace building, and transitional justice. And Professor, as you have put it clearly, the question is, how do we administer justice for the natural resources and for the environment that has been abused and that has faced crimes from the human race? Allow me to appreciate and thank you once again. Professor, we missed you for a long time because you went off, but we appreciate that you've come back and you've given us that content. David, thank you so much for the that you've shared today, Ramsan. And for the webinar would not have been possible without your participation because we would be speaking to ourselves. We want to thank you so much for joining us, and we want to welcome you again, that you join us tomorrow, same time, as we continue to discuss these issues. And we want to also inform you that in June, July, until August, we will be having the same conversation. And eventually we want to see how do we continue to enrich the African Union Transitional Justice Policy, especially from an environmental perspective and from a transitional justice, environmental justice perspective. Allow me to bring the discussion to a close. We've been here for almost 2 hours, and we want to thank you once again for your patience and for your participation and for the sharing. Thanks for the sentiments that have been shared in the chat and for the questions that were raised. We look forward to seeing you once again, and God bless you. Have a good morning, have a good afternoon, and have a good evening. Yanda, we are sorry you dropped. We are sorry that Yanda, our facilitator, dropped off, but we do look forward to having her tomorrow. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mumini. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Let's meet tomorrow. Thanks.
Okay, tomorrow. Thank you, tomorrow.
Can we call people?
I just sent you a message in the chat, but you are the host for this, so you will have to actually end the webinar, and the recording will download automatically, and then we can cut the end off.
Claire? Claire?
Yeah.
Sorry, Yande dropped off at some point, so I had to pick up. So I was not the host. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
No.
I end the webinar?
But you are, yeah, you are now, I think you have become the host. So you can, if you just click end webinar, or you can just,
End the webinar.
Yeah, then it will record automatically. I mean, yeah, it will download the recording. Yep. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It was great to listen in. Thanks for having me.
Okay,
okay, take care.